things. So we talked about calibration verification ensures that a piece of equipment is operating within its specification limits. That's sort of like what we were talking before about the micrometers, and you have a gauge block at your workstation, and perhaps at the start of the shift, you're just checking the gauge block to see that your micrometers are reading correctly. One of the major differences, I think you're already starting to see this, one of the major differences between calibration and verification is the requirement to document. So in the ISO 17025, and we talked about its purpose before, to operate competently, generate valid results. So again, this covers a wide range of practices, and one of those is the generation of a calibration certificate. So ISO 17025 requires all of this stuff. I got tired of typing, right? So the title of the report, the name and address of laboratory, the location of performance of laboratory activities, the unique identification, it goes on and on and on. All of that information is required on a certificate to fulfill the requirements of calibration per 17025. So again, the difference between calibration and verification, well, look at all this stuff. I mean, you're recording all sorts of environmental conditions and the serial number of the standard you used to calibrate the device and all sorts of other things. Verification, you don't have any of those requirements. So, and again, one major difference, we said that already, is to requirement. The requirement to document. Documentation of gauge verification could be as simple as a checkbox. Yes, no, pass, fail. And again, they serve different purposes. Verification is not calibration, but it's very important to maintain the accuracy of your instruments. So calibration often involves a two-step process. Number one, the technician uses a calibration standard to read the output of the gauge. And then, but not always, but often, the technician adjusts the device under test to match the reading on the standard. So calibration absolutely includes adjustments, if it's possible. And many different types of gauges have adjustments, hardness testers and calipers and micrometers and all sorts of test equipment has offsets and adjustments that you can make to tune it in to the closer to that true value. Not everything, of course. Gauge blocks, for instance, wouldn't have that. So calibration may uncover three different types of gauge error. We're not going to do a lot with these here, but bias is a systematic error. In other words, if your micrometer is consistently read 5 millimeters too long or 0.5 millimeters too long, they were always measured wrong in the same direction, that would be a bias. Linearity has to do with a percent variation over the span of the scale. So let's just say you're talking about like a weight scale and it's off by 1%. Well, at 100 pounds, that's 1 pound. At 500 pounds, it's 5 pounds. In other words, it's growing. It's getting worse over the span of the gauge. Stability has to do with its accuracy over time. This month, next month, the following month. So all of these track, again, different types of errors, and they all relate to the expected accuracy of the gauge. I think that's pretty well understood. Other types of gauge studies relate to the range of gauge output. These have to do with the center value, the accuracy of a gauge. There's other types of studies that have to do with the variation of a gauge. It sounds like the same as, but if we were to expand it, it would be easy to see there's other types of gauge error that don't affect the quote accuracy, but it has to do with the precision specific.